Hey guys, it's Mandalore from Mighty Wallets again. I don't know where my old lady is, so instead, I'm cuddling a very cute redhead. Hi, Baba. Yeah, you're so cute. Yeah. So, meantime, gonna put out a video of some tunes that aren't in the game that I'd like to be in the game. These are not Clone Wars tunes, so don't expect to see them anytime. They're kind of just Dark Horse tunes that I would like to see at some point in the game, because I already did the Clone Wars tunes video that I'd want to see. So I hope you guys enjoy, and please subscribe, share, and wail harder. Thank you very much. Enjoy.
One of the characters that I would really like to see added to the game that I'm also surprised hasn't made its way into the game is Saw Gerrera. Saw first comes into the Star Wars universe during the Clone Wars as a guerrilla fighter on Onderon. He fights with Ahsoka, he fights with Anakin and Kenobi, and they ultimately liberate Onderon from Separatist holding. Later on, we see him here encountering Old Man Rex and some of the Phoenix Squadron during the beginning and the early stages of the Galactic Civil War. And then later on, much later on in a different series during Rogue One, we see a half robotic, somewhat PTSD, well, extremely PTSD version of Saw Gerrera. So I wouldn't mind seeing really any of these iterations of Saw added to the game because it's a very deep and important character in the Star Wars universe. Another tune that I'd really like to see added to the game is Rook. Rook is a Nogri commando. He makes a cameo of sorts in Star Wars Rebels, but really the best version of his character comes out in the Timothy Zahn Heir to the Empire trilogy. The Star Wars Rebel cartoon really doesn't do the character justice. I mean, he is a savage assassin, and he leads a team of Nogri who are employed by Thrawn and the remnants of the Empire to hunt down enemies, and they're assassins. I mean, let's call them what they are. But as this cartoon shows you, he's kind of a little bit bumbling, kind of looks comical because he's really small. They were small in the Timothy Zahn books, but they were very much kind of come out of the darkness and slit your throat characters, not these, one-on-one, face-to-face battles like you're seeing in Star Wars Rebels. But all the same, I would really like to see Rook, the Nogri, come into Star Wars Galaxies of Heroes. Another tune that I'd like to see added to the game is, incidentally, also in the Star Wars Rebels cartoon, Wolf Yularen. Yularen is the colonel of the Imperial Security Bureau, which is basically internal investigations for the Empire. Fans of the Clone Wars cartoon may remember him as a much nicer, younger gentleman who actually was an admiral in the Republic Navy, was actually Anakin Skywalker's admiral aboard his ship. But here, during Rebels, we see him as a little bit more embittered, working with Thrawn, trying to find defectors and turncoats in the Empire. I'm not sure what capacity he might be brought into the game. I'm not sure how CG could potentially make that as part of his kit. If they were to bring him in, maybe preventing rebels from stealthing or gaining buffs or something like that. But I think that could be interesting, and fans of the original trilogy might remember him in this Imperial High Command conference room, just quietly sitting in the corner as General Tajay and Admiral Mahdi argue, and then Mahdi gets force choked by Vader. He's kind of one of those obscure characters that super fans are really into, and so am I, so I'd like to see him in the game. The only character in this video that doesn't have some sort of crossover with the Star Wars Rebels franchise is Calo Nord. Fans of Knights of the Old Republic, and if you haven't played Knights of the Old Republic, you have no idea what you're missing. So go play it. Anyway, Calo Nord is kind of one of the early game bosses. He's a bounty hunter. He works for Davik Kane. You have to go through him a couple times. I won't spoil the game outside of that for anyone that hasn't played the game, although you really should be ashamed of yourself. But anyway, Calo Nord is a really badass bounty hunter, as you can see from this video. He doesn't talk very much. He's kind of soft-spoken, but he packs a punch. I know that there were a number of people that were upset that Calo Nord didn't make his way into Galaxy of Heroes with the whole integration of the KOTOR and KOTOR 2 tunes. And CG Top had even went so far as to say that he himself was disappointed that Calo didn't make it into the game. He is going to make this video of mine in the hopes that maybe we can keep our fingers crossed and see Calo Nord in the game sometime soon. Personally, I was convinced he was coming in because they were doing the KOTOR tunes a lot, which also coincided with a lot of bounty hunter tunes and reworks. So in my mind, it made sense for those two to form a nexus in Calo Nord coming into the game. But I was wrong. My favorite tune on this list that I'd like to see added to the game would be Agent Kallus. Fans of the Star Wars Rebels series will remember Kallus is starting out as a pretty aggressive Imperial Securities Bureau agent hunting down the splinter rebel faction on Lothal, being the Phoenix Squadron, until this episode when he and Garazeb Aurelios have a bonding moment. The other is kind of humanized in their eyes, and they develop a sort of bond. And Kallus goes back to his Star Destroyer, back to the Imperials, where everyone's a bureaucratic robot. And I think this is where his face turn comes from, and fans of wrestling will probably and hopefully understand what that means. Basically, he becomes a good guy, and later on he becomes the new fulcrum, supplying intelligence to the rebels, and then later on, once he gets outed as being the fulcrum, he ultimately just becomes a full-fledged rebel. So I'd really like to see him in the game. He has a very interesting character arc. Whether he were to come into the game as an Imperial or some light side character or a neutral, really doesn't matter to me. I just really want him in the game. I wouldn't want him to have a Phoenix tag, though, because I think that would really throw off their team dynamic. But certainly maybe a Rebel tag or an Imperial tag, either way I'd be good with. Certainly a very interesting and compelling character, certainly coming from a cartoon. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to subscribe and share, and don't forget to whale harder.